Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101, and we have Neil on the line with us today. Before we get started with the show, let me just let you know where you can watch the uh, video of the podcast. You can watch it on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself, as well as you can go out to the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group, and there you can watch it there. And you can also get some help from other archers, any problems you might happen to have. Upload a video, tell us about the problem, and we'll take a look at it and see if we can help you. And if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it wherever you get podcasts from, as well as you can listen to it on audible.com. You can go out there, search for Arch Talk 101, and you can listen to it that way. Now, on with the show. Welcome, Neil. And how about if you introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you?
Well, my name's Neil Cooley. I've been shooting archery since I was about 4 or 5 years old. It was a family sport for us, so my mom and my dad both shot. I'm originally from the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. I've been living in Oklahoma City since about 2009. In the archery community, I am the state ASA director and the host of the Oklahoma Archery Podcast. So we've got quite a few great Oklahoma archery clubs and a lot of good shooters coming out from Oklahoma. So I never caught what part of the country are you from, Roy?
I'm from Nebraska, just north of
Oh,
you.
big deer country.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll put some links into your podcast and everything else you want to link to. That way, it makes it easier for our watchers and listeners to find it. So what got you started in archery?
I can remember shooting when I was just a little guy. I got a bow for Christmas. It was either Christmas or my birthday when I was 4 going on 5 years old. It was a little miniature bear. I still got it somewhere out at Dad's house. It's up in the archery room, and shot fingers all the way through middle school. So I was born in 1990. So back in the day, not everybody shot a mechanical release. So compound with fingers on a longer axle to axle bow. Shot Hoyt for pretty much most of my life after that. I've switched to Darton this year, and they've been a fantastic bow. I've really been enjoying those. But I did Olympic recurve for just a little while, and in Oklahoma at the time, we didn't have the resurgence of the youth movement in there, so I didn't have anyone to shoot against until I think indoor sectionals was the first time I saw under 18 Olympic recurve archer. So I eventually switched over to the compound and started shooting with a mechanical release. And it's been mostly 3D and bow hunting. I do shoot quite a bit of indoor. I wouldn't call myself a very accomplished indoor shooter, but you got to pass the time in the winter somehow. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll allow it for a few of the cold months. And I do enjoy quite a few of the skinny arrow events. I try to shoot the state 900, the state field, and recently this weekend, my buddy and I just got back from Wabash, Indiana, for the NFAA. How do I say this right? Midwest Classic Trail Shoot. So it's like a Reading style shoot, but it's over in Indiana. So kind of Reading of the East, if you will.
Now tell our listeners a little something about that. They may not know what the Reading shoot is.
So Reading is out in California. It's a pretty expensive place to go to if you're brave enough, but they have a lot of shooters that utilize their terrain, both uphill, downhill, side hill, and distance. So it's like a regular 3D tournament, but they stretch the distance anywhere from 4 yards to 101 yards. And typically, it's not a rule, but typically you would shoot skinny arrows like you would be shooting field style. Would do a lot better than the traditional line busters that you'd shoot for 3D. So 3D, we've got a lot of big arrows, 23, 25, 27 diameter shafts. I've saw some people shoot it with 23s. I don't think I've seen anyone try to shoot it with 25s. So the general consensus is the skinny arrows like to give you a little bit better luck at that kind of distance, and it's a lot of fun. Even when you're at 4 yards, it's hard to park two large diameter shafts in the same little dot. So they're all the way from a 4 centimeter dot to I think a 13 centimeter.
That's pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of tricky to stick one in there because you've got to shoot the same dot with both your arrows. So if you're looking at a 4 yard target, you think, yeah, I can hit that, no big deal. Well, you got a lot of people out there that don't necessarily do their homework to figure out where their bow's going to hit at super, super short distances, and it can be very frustrating to lose points on some of those short targets. We had pretty good luck. My travel buddy and I, we did pretty good on the long stuff. The short stuff kind of ate our lunch this past weekend. So you necessarily drop points where you expect to.
Well, and shooting those short yardages, which a lot of them don't realize is your arrow is down at your mouth, but your sights are up by your eyes, so you're off. I know, like at my one bow, one time I shot one is 5 feet. I'd shoot it 70 yards.
Hmm.
It was a 70-yard target, but it was like, 5 feet away.
Yep, you shoot right over the back of it if you use your 20-yard pin.
Yeah.
Um, Very, very frustrating. I've shot them all the way down to, I think, 78 yards on some of the super close ones. And it ought to be a gimme. It ought to be a chip shot, but all you got to do is do your homework. And then they throw in a little bit of angles to it as well. So they'll take your feet away. Your core's engaged in a different way, and it's pretty challenging. It's not the one we went to is not as technically challenging as Reading, but I think there's more of the terrain. It's spread out quite a bit for safety concerns. So you do put some miles on the boots. I didn't check my steps tracker, but we were pretty worn out after both days.
Yeah, you get a lot of walking up and down hills and carrying all your stuff. Yeah, it can wear you out.
100%. I was not prepared with the bow, nor was I prepared physically. So, points off for style on that one. We came out huffing and puffing and sunburned, and mosquitoes weren't bad. It's just we've had so much rain. It's so humid up there that you don't think 90 degrees is going to be all that bad, and you get out there and you just can't breathe, and you're huffing and puffing, and it's like, golly, am I in that bad a shape, or is this just that physically demanding? And everybody out there that shot like a total archery challenge style, I would very, very highly encourage you to come try one of these because it's all the walking. I know there's a big stigma out there. A lot of people don't want to shoot for score, but you meet a lot of people. They can teach you a lot of things. You got friends that you're going to see there year after year, and it doesn't matter if you come in last. I've been middle of the pack. I've been bottom of the pack. It doesn't. The only thing it changes is the drive home and how you feel like you prepared for it. So, do yourself a favor and step outside of your comfort zone as an archer because let's face it, everybody's the champion of their own backyard.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely, definitely true. When you get out of that backyard, all the pressure starts and everything else. And
There's a good book out there, and the author's name escapes me, but the title of the book is With Winning in Mind. And he does a lot of explaining in the early chapters that your score does not define who you are as a person. It doesn't say anything else about you other than how you shot your bow that day. And I think there's a lot of people that are kind of hesitant to throw their scorecard in there because they're not just shooting for fun anymore. Now it's serious. Now it's a competition. Now they have to worry about all these extra things. And it's like you can't be thinking about that while you're trying to break a good shot at 88 yards or
right.
73 yards. Like you got to be 100% mentally locked in. This line back here is the one for shooting. Once we walk up to the target, we'll worry about scoring up there. And I think people can kind of misinterpret what their fears and insecurities are. So always want to reach out to the bow hunting crowd. I'm a big supporter of target archery and tournament archery, and we just don't get as many bow hunters as we want. And we've tried everything as far as giving them their own class and trying to include their equipment across the different organizations. But if you want to do one thing to grow target archery, it's get the bow hunters involved and tell them that it's like, hey, we can bet $1 a target, or we can pay low man buys lunch, or high score buys lunch, or high score buys gas home. It doesn't matter, but there's there's so few people that do target archery, and a lot of them run in pretty small circles. We've been accused of being a very cliquey community that I think if you want to see the sport grow over the next couple of decades, the biggest thing to do is going to get the bow hunters involved because that's your bloodline. That's your people that, they grew up doing it, but they've never heard of a 12 ring or they've never heard of an orange dot or anything like that. So, reach out to somebody that hasn't experienced it yet, and they might be beating you in a year or two. I've seen guys pick it up really, really quickly and go from never having shot a tournament before to being very, very competitive inside a year or two.
Yeah, it just depends on, what your goals are. And, if you want to become a better hunter, going to 3D shoots is probably the best way to do it because you can only hunt so many days and out of the year, and you can only kill so many animals, and then your tags only allow you to shoot that many. And how do you shoot more? Well, go to 3D shoot.
Yeah. You got to stay sharp year round. In Oklahoma, we start our 3D season first weekend of February, and it runs all the way through the end of August when the classic at Coleman, Alabama, big ASA Pro Am. So every weekend we're going somewhere. I just got back from Indiana. I'm going to be here for 3 days and turn around and go back to Illinois for another ASA Pro Am. So different organizations, different bows, different setups. Some of the same people. That's my favorite part. I've never won a big tournament, but I've either seen an old friend or made a new one at most of them. And sometimes you get like my buddy. First year I shot this orange dot shoot in Wabash, Indiana. We get off the trail, and I was paired up with three buddies. I was what they call a group buster. So they put a neutral third party in there to make sure nobody's pencil whipping or cheating. And we get off the mountain, and we're laughing and hey, good job, good to meet you, that kind of thing. And he goes, Neil, don't take this the wrong way. I was really worried you were going to be this amped up for 2 full days on the mountain. It was really, really worried, but you just kind of kept bebopping along, kind of did your own thing, and really kept the group going. So you meet people and these guys have done it for 10 years. It's like the 11th time that they've been there, and I'm a first timer, and he's like, "Oh, the enthusiasm on this guy is going to wear me out over the next 2 days." And I was like, "Man, I'm just excited to be here. I don't have any expectations on standing on the podium or cashing a big check for winning or anything like that. Like these are not the kind of tournaments that you're going to quit your day job on. You're going to have to go to work on Monday. They're not going to name a street after you. They're not going to have a parade. So if that's what you're expecting, maybe tournament bass fishing or golf is better suited for you, but most of these, payouts are in the thousands, not the hundreds of thousands or anything like that. So it's all in good fun. It does get competitive, but it's mostly in good fun for most of the people out there.
Yeah, unless you're really doing it professionally, where that's your job, you're going to get your some of your expenses back. Is about all you can hope for.
Breaking even is a good day between hotels, gas, and food and entry fees. Breaking even is a win.
Yeah, hotels can be quite expensive when you're spending, 2, 3 nights there, and then plus depending on how far you have to travel, and all that can really add up. And
It does. It does. Nobody's ever made money in archery. There are about 6 people that do it full time, and everybody else just chasing the dream.
yeah, have fun. That's the thing. When I was going 3Ds all the time with a buddy of mine, we didn't care where we were at as far as the scoring because they always did the flights and stuff. So you could be number 19 and be last place and number 20 and be first place.
Yeah.
So we didn't care where that was at. The only thing we cared about is, did I beat you this time or did you beat me? Who gets to give it, who has to take it on the way home?
Yeah. A lot of people sign a dollar bill and they'll all go in on a pot, and whoever wins that tournament gets to keep all the signed dollar bills till the next time around. And it's just fun stuff amongst, friends and people like
Yeah.
that. And so some people use $2 bill. Hey, all you superstitious people out there, if you like $2 bills, that's a good use for them if they're still in circulation. But yeah, it's a there's not enough people that participate, and we've seen in Oklahoma we've seen record numbers increase over the last year. Like our state ASA went from 84, 86 people all the way up to 222, and that was in the first year of me being the state director. not to take credit for all that, we had a lot of good clubs, a lot of new people, but I think getting people outside of their comfort zone, like if you call up a random, because my phone rings all the time with new people who are like, "Hey, you're that director guy. Well, how do I do it? What class does my bow fit in? What division does my kid shoot in?" All the questions for first timers, and I'll like, "Yeah, just come out. Here's the directions. I'll shoot the first round with you. You know, try to make you feel at home." Um, Probably scare as many people off as I do. Like, why is this guy so friendly? You know, what's he was? Well, I want you to come. I want you to enjoy it. You know,
Right.
I want you to bring your whole family. If you got buddies that don't shoot, I want you to introduce them to them. If they don't have equipment, there's probably the best thing about target archery is they all buy the new gear every year, and they've all got 3 or 4 bows. So you can go to a tournament and be like, "Hey, this is my buddy. He's 6'1", kind of lanky. Anybody got a 50 to 60 pound bow from last year?" And half 100 hands are in the air. Everybody's got something they'd sell him for $300, fully rigged out. Maybe, you can get a lot of used gear and get started in it because a lot of people don't ever take their broadheads off their hunting bow. Like my hunting bow stays dialed in, it's broadhead tuned year round, and I start shooting it in end of July, early August just to get ready for October 1. And that's kind of how it stays. And I think a lot of bow hunters, it's easier for them that way, and they show up and they're like, you never want them to just like, it's like, okay, well, we shoot field points here, so don't show up with a quiver full of broadheads and be disappointed. That's always the biggest fear. They're like, okay, I know. It's like, okay, well, some people didn't know and they showed up and we had to sight them in or had to find some screw in tips or something at the last minute, and it was a big cluster. So that's what we try to do. The ASA has been absolutely great at growing the sport. We've got a pretty good NFAA chapter here in Oklahoma, so we've got a lot going on, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I know I'm lucky enough I have more than one bow, so I have my one bow that I use for hunting, and it's set up to shoot my broadheads, which does not shoot field tips anywhere close to being what the broadheads do. But when I practice with it without the broadheads, I know they're not going to hit where I'm aiming because I don't care because I know the broadheads do. Then I have another bow that is set up to shoot field tips. And, that way I just, whatever I'm going to do, if I'm going to go 3D, I grab the one for 3D. I don't grab my hunting bow. I grab the other bow. And when I'm going to hunt, then I grab that hunting bow and it's set up just for hunting.
What kind of bow do you shoot?
PSE.
There you go. Makes a good bow. What
Yeah.
model?
I've got a 2001 Carrera that I hunt with and a 2003, I think it is, Scorpion.
There you go. I remember the Scorpion.
Yep. And I got the first model. There's two models. There's one with the single cam, which is the second model, and then one with the control cable, and then the wide cable, and then the single cable. So there's three of them on there. And that is the one I have, the first one. And then they changed the model the second year, and then they dropped the bow. They only put out 2 years in it, and it was two different models. But
Golly.
good shooting bow.
If it
Um,
ain't broke, don't fix it.
yeah. And then I have PSE recurve. And then I have a bear. I don't know what model it is. I got it like in 2016 when I was working at Cabela's. Between me and John, we repaired lots of bows that was returned. Defective bow for whatever reason. We'd go through and one might have this part bad and another one this part bad. And we'd take them all together and make good ones and then put them on our used bow rack because we used to sell used bows as well. And that way we could keep working on them and something more for the department to get some more money coming in.
Yeah. And
And,
recoup some
and
cost, and you have a scrapyard of parts for anything you need. It's like I would
yeah,
almost rather get an old blown up one that you can't get limbs for because it's like if you have a good string builder, he'll look at those cams and look at the limb deflections and be like, I think we could make that bow fit a kid. Or I think we could make that bow about a half inch longer in draw length. And he'll make you a set of strings and it'll be close. And I've got a really good guy at Summit Bowstrings is a company I shoot for. Bryce Talley out of Texas is a young man's name. And he will take you hear custom bowstrings. He will literally do some of the craziest things to get like little short kids are shooting 33-inch axle to axle bows that are meant for grown adults, and they fit these kids perfect before they're really old enough to be able to reasonably fit that model of bow. It'll take the poundage down, it'll take the draw length down, everything else, and you see those cams just rotate over just a little bit, and there they go. It's like you can do a lot with some of those older ones. I've got a bucket over here full of old Hoyt parts and cams and limbs and stuff like that. That there's a guy I've bought and sold stuff from on some of these Facebook groups that sell used target archery gear, and we'll swap cams back and forth and limbs, and he's always looking at, and he recognized me and came up and said, "Hey man, good to meet you. I've talked to you on Facebook before." And I was like, "Oh yeah, Braden, good to see you, man. I've got a box full of stuff to send you at home," because he loves those old Hoyts, those early 2000 series, late 90s, early 2000s, 2010s. He Frankenstein's all these old bows up, and he still shoots them in tournaments. He shoots them really well. And I was like, man, I've got some XT 3000 limbs I gotta send you, and some cams I bought like 2 years ago that I never used. I don't have any use for them now. They're just taking up drawer space. But somebody out
Right.
there is looking for that part on that bow, and I know Archery Talk is never something that I mastered as far as looking on those old forums and stuff like that. But Facebook's been a pretty good resource for finding old parts to discontinued bows and older project bows. One thing some of the ranges they'll do like a vintage bow night, so your bow has to be like minimum 20 years old, and we'll throw on all the old sights and the old bow doodle rests and stuff like that, the old spring rests, and we'll go out and shoot a 5 spot indoor round with everybody's old rickety bows, and you'll see some steel cables and some Oneida bows and stuff like that. And I've seen ranges do that. I haven't seen it done in Oklahoma, but I would be interested to try to get something like that going, because everybody's got their new my new this and the new model of that, and I'll check that out. It's only been on the market 2 weeks, and man, those old bows will shoot. You look at the Vegas scores from back before I was born; they were shooting 900s before anybody had a back bar on there. So
Yeah.
I think we don't
Well,
give enough credit to the guy
bows I
holding the bow.
use, bows I use fit that.
Yeah.
2001, 2003.
Oh yeah.
So 20, 22, 20, 24 years old. So uh, I'm
How
still
many
using
sets of
them.
strings do you think that you've gone through on those?
Oh, probably on the hunting bow, probably three of them.
Okay.
Well, I make my own strings, so they're a little bit higher quality than what comes on
There you go.
them. I
What
had
material are you using?
BCY's 8125,
Okay.
and the way I make them, I don't get any stretch after I make them. I don't put them on a stretching machine or anything, and I don't get any stretch out of them. So the process I go through when I make them,
Okay.
I stretch them before I even serve anything on them. I've already stretched them because I tie them together so it's a continuous loop, and then on a jig I can put pressure on it, so I get some really good pressure on them, get all the strands even. So there's really no need to stretch them after I make them.
Are you shooting those PSCs with fingers or a mechanical release?
Oh, release.
There you go.
Yeah, I had to switch away from fingers um, several bows ago because it got short enough, and I draw back and my ring finger go numb
Oh yeah.
because of the pinch on the ring finger. And then so I started going to a mechanical release, and I went through um, quite a few different ones, and until I um, guy I knew was a rep for Scott Archery. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, they get new ones all the time. And I bought one of his back in probably 95, 96. I bought his that he had been using, and it has just a little hook on it that opens up, just a single hook instead of the jaws. And the nice thing about that is I can find my loop and hook up to it without even looking at it. And that's what, 30 years old, still using it.
Yep.
And then the
Wrap it
one
around
I
the riser when the season ends and it's ready for you when it rolls around the next year.
and then what I normally use until it gets really cold, when our hunting season up here in Nebraska is it gets kind of cold by the time you get to, you know, November time frame or October, November, it can get pretty cold and until it gets really cold, I got a Carter chocolate addiction and it has it just it locks around it so I can put it on the loop and hang it off the bow when I'm standing in a tree stand. Now I don't leave it on there other than that time, but then I can find the string, go down, find it, and draw back. I don't have to look at it because every time I've looked away from the deer to try and draw, I look
Mm-hmm.
back to looking at me. It's like every time. So I don't even take my eyes off the deer. I always know what it's doing. I'm not being surprised by all of a sudden turn around and the deer's looking at you.
You got those eyes on you, man. It's like you got to play red light, green light with them. If they're not looking, I'm moving, getting closer and closer to it. As soon as their head goes up, ears start twitching, nose goes in the air. It's like, well, Irish Spring soap was probably not the best call this morning.
That's true. That's true. It makes a difference when you're trying to get so close to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I
they're
don't I don't subscribe to the theory of all these people taking shots past 50 yards. If you're practicing 80, 90 yards all the time, more power to you. I love it. I love it for you. I'm probably not going to take a shot at an animal past 40 yards where I'm hunting. I don't have a slider sight. I shoot the 20, 30, 40, 50 fixed pins. I've never used the 50. I've used the 40 once. That was that top deer over there, whichever way he's going. And all the rest have been between 20 and 25. It's not, I'm not trying to see how far away I can kill an animal. I'm trying to see how close I can get to them, and that's the beautiful thing about bow hunting to me. So, and that's not saying that that's the only way to do it. If you're out there in the plains and it's big wide open ground and you can only take a shot at an antelope at 112 yards and you can hit it, more power to you, brother. I I think there's a lot that the wind does, and that animal can move a whole bunch in the time that it takes that arrow to get there. So I'm a close range bow hunter. Got a lot of friends that shoot trad, and they think close range it means inside 15 yards, and that's when they're really on top of you, and it's a whole different challenge.
yeah, it is. My first year was 40-yard shot. I was about 20 feet up in the tree. Had to get that high to get over the brush, and I was shooting 52 pounds. Uh, I forget which aluminum arrow it was, a full length aluminum arrow, probably 2117, 145 grain Muzzy broadhead, four blade Muzzy broadhead. And when that deer turned around, I think the fletching stopped it from going all the way through.
Hmm. Yep.
And I've never shot one, the first shot, I've never had one at that long range. I had one I'd shot at probably 10 yards and it run out 40 yards and stopped and turned broadside. So I put another arrow in it.
It's the way to do it.
Other than that, I try for 20-yard shots, but normally it's not that long. It's always closer than that. I like the 20-yard shot because it doesn't have a wrong, strong angle. I've had them basically walk underneath my tree stand. Like too close, I can't shoot them that close.
Yeah. Yep. Makes you think about the setup and everything like that. I say most of them I've killed in the past 10 years. I haven't even been off the ground. I'll hunt out of a ground blind, nice and easy, just depending on the wind. But my dad shoots a recurve, and he built a box blind that he can sit down and shoot his longbow out of. So it's got big tall ceilings. You can get a lot. You can get away with a lot of movement in there. And I'm an early season hunter. I mean, my three best bucks have been killed on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I'm surrounded by, I got gun hunters on one side, a crossbow hunter on the other side, and right at the intersection of two major highways. So most of the time, the semi trucks take out my target buck every year. And if I don't get him in the first couple weeks of season, it's in Oklahoma, they have youth weekend. When I was young, That makes me sound dated. When I was a little guy, youth weekend was antlerless, and I was like, "Oh yeah, let them kids go out there, have fun, shoot some slick heads, and put some meat in the freezer." And now it's just open season, so you're watching your target buck, hoping that he's going to stick around till the rut, and a 7-year-old tags him with a 243 at 210 yards, and you're like, well, there goes my expectations for the season. And nothing against those kids. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to. That's not what I'm saying. But when I was a kid, it was, well, go out here and get your doe, man. And the next weekend's start a muzzleloader, and then 2 weeks after that's rifle season. So times have changed just a little
Right.
bit. So it's a regulations thing. If you want to influence that, write your legislators or your local politicians.
Yeah, I know here in Nebraska, when I was, first started, you got two tags is all you got for deer. If you got a rifle tag, you could get an archery tag. If you had an archery, you could get a muzzler. You could get two archery tags, or two is all you had. And September 15th is when it started. It went to November when the rifle season started, and it was 9 days. And then archery opened back up until ended November. So all of December was muzzleloader and archery. So now they've changed it September 1st through December 31st. We just have to wear orange during rifle season. So
There you go.
because there are places that I've hunted before that one of the public places you couldn't shoot a rifle there. It was archery or shotgun. It's the only two things you could shoot in there. You couldn't shoot 22s or nothing. No rifles of any kind. And that allowed you to at least go out in that same area during rifle season and still hunt because they didn't allow rifles in there. So anybody around that was shooting rifles, they'd end up there.
Yep. I remember I've got a couple of friends that have never rifle hunted. We had a young man on the podcast a couple weeks back named Colby Crooks, and I think his first archery kill, or his first kill of any kind, was a bow at 7 years old, shooting a back tension hooker release. Do you remember the old? They didn't. It's not a hinge that moves; it's just a ledge.
Oh
And
yeah,
7 years old, first one was with a bow, and I'm like, man, and he's gone pro a couple of times, and he's still in undergrad college, so he's a young fella, but been bow hunting from day one, and I love seeing that. And I'm not a big crossbow fan, not to be controversial, but if it gets them involved and it gets them in the woods, I don't have anything against it. I would like to see them shoot a vertical bow so they could come, be a part of the tournament archery world because that's my
right.
job. So I feel like they're depriving themselves of an opportunity to come have fun with me on the weekends. But if you got a bad shoulder, if you're 104 years old and you just don't have it in you, go enjoy the woods, go enjoy nature, go enjoy hunting. If it's just don't want to practice, don't want to be challenged, well that's bow hunting. That's the beauty of it. If rifle season was October 1st till January 15th the whole way through, we wouldn't have any deer left. Period. I mean, it's I think we get a week of rifle and 2 weekends, like a 10 day. Maybe it's 2 full weeks now. I think they put it somewhere around the holidays, but by that time in Oklahoma, the rut's full swing, and that's when I'm going to have my bow in the tree. So my
Right.
favorite thing to do is to tag an archery deer in the middle of gun season. And my buddies all see a picture and they're like, "Where's your orange, man?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got it. It's like tied around me somewhere. Usually, most of the time, I'm hunting private land, 40 acres. So we usually we'll leave it by the old by the door before I walk down to the before I walk down to the woods. It's like, yeah, take that off there. There we go. Put that on. Get in the ground blind. Kind of take it, throw it on the ground. It's like, okay, hope it's probably going to bite me one day. It's probably going to backfire on me. But if there's anybody out there, they probably shouldn't be there. It's private land, so if they shoot me thinking I'm a deer, man, I guess he didn't need a ear.
Yeah. Well, and then too, when you end up blind, they can't see the orange anyway. So what I used to do when I'm in that situation, I'd put the orange on the blind itself. So it could be seen at a distance and know, okay, you may not be behind the orange, but at least they know that you're there in that area. And then
Yeah,
that way you're still covered. And they have stuff, there's and I think in Nebraska there's a regulation on a blind during that season. You have to have so much orange on the top of the blind or something or other. I don't get in a blind during rifle season because if I'm out during that season and don't have my bow, then I've got a rifle and got a full orange on anyway. So
Yeah. I'm gonna cover some ground is what I'm saying. It's like I'm gonna reach
right,
out and touch something.
yeah, that's um, get out in the field, get meat in the freezer. That's the whole
Yeah.
goal.
So
Get
I
meat in the
tell
freezer.
people there's free steak running around the woods. All you got to do is go kill it. I
Yeah.
mean, I love shooting them. I love eating them. But what I truly enjoy the most is tracking them, believe it or not. That is my favorite part. Something absolutely primal. Because we were born in modern society. We've never tapped into this part of our DNA. But everybody that's alive comes from, some kind of caveman back in the day that was sitting there following specks of blood, knowing he was probably going to eat dinner that night. And
Yeah.
that it hits some part of our embedded DNA that we haven't touched for thousands and thousands of years. And that's my favorite part. I love tracking them. Some of my hunting buddies that come up and bow hunt with us are red green colorblind. So whenever they shoot a deer, it's like, okay, stand on the last blood. I'm gonna go look up here. Okay, now come stand right here on this last blood. I'm gonna go look find the next one. And they're just kind of my help me kind of line it up and figure out where we're going. But that's my favorite part of it. I love cooking them. Don't get me wrong. I haven't missed many meals, but uh, for sure. I don't like waiting on them to show up is the problem. Like I like them patterned. I run some pretty good trail cams, so I've got like 6 cameras on 4 acres of trees. We're hunting 40 acres, but it's all open field. Like the back 4 or 5 acres is the only timber. So you bet I've got a camera going every direction. I know which ones where all the time when they're coming through, pattern them pretty well. And when I get in there early season, I like to keep it surgical.
It helps reduce the time you have to spend just sitting in a tree stand and moving tree stands, and it definitely helps having those trail cameras out there now.
And that's not to say that that's how everybody should hunt. When I was 25 years old, I would just go down there, see a deer and shoot a deer, see a deer and shoot a deer. Well, we started running cameras and actually had a couple of good bucks running around. And I started waiting because, first doe that pops out, I run an arrow through her, call dad, let's go drag her out and get her in the ice chest. I never waited for anything. If you've been in the woods any amount of time, you know that old buck will sit there on the edge and kind of peer out into that field and see what's going to happen and, follow those does out 20 minutes later. I probably scared off half a dozen Pope and young deer that I was just too impatient to sit and wait on. And as I got older, all my friends are, they're after the big bucks. And I was just there to hunt. I didn't care anything about, wasn't going to spend money on taxidermy and anything. We'd Euro mount them, or skull cap them and put them on the little wooden shields and stain them and
Yeah.
cover them with felt and run the tax around it just to have something to hang on the wall. But I wasn't really ever dedicated to shooting 1 or 2 target bucks. And that's changed for me over the past few years. And it has really been a struggle to make bow hunting bow hunting again. Because I'm here to kill something and eat it. Let's call it what it is. I'm here to fill the freezer. And I think there's a lot of people out there that get kind of looked down on, and it's like I'm not going to hear a bad word about those people. If they want to shoot the spike, if they want to shoot the four corner, the basket rack six, more power to you. I'd like to see them grow because I want to hunt them at 4, 5, and 6 years old. But if you want to eat him, go on and do it. So I hate seeing hunters argue with other hunters. It's like we got enough animal rights activists out there that all want to take our rights away and make sure none of us can ever go kill an animal again. And we're bickering over whether or not that deer is 4.5 or 5.5 and whether or not he ought to get shot or get another year. And it's like, y'all, you gotta put a better face on for our sport.
Yeah.
You have to do better in uniting with your fellow hunters. And unless they're shooting them off the same property you're hunting, live and let live, let it be what
Right.
it is. There's no reason to get, I've seen them go to war in the comments on Facebook, and they're probably out there. If you're live right now, they're probably typing it underneath there. He shot a 134-inch deer and thinks he's special, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, well, he was the biggest deer I'd ever killed at the time, and I was plumb
Yeah.
tickled with him. So hunted him for 2 years. I missed him at 5.5 and killed him at 6.5. So yeah, I had a history of that deer. We were playing cat and mouse.
Yeah. It's um, you just got to make sure that, you like what it is you're shooting, and depends on how much land you have too. If you've got 40 acres or 80 acres, your deer's not going to be stay on that property. It's going to be roaming around multiple different properties, so maybe you want to try and get bigger ones, but maybe two farms down, they just want meat in the freezer. They don't care what it is. And they shoot it. So you can't always control. So is it good enough for you? If it is, shoot it. You know,
I'm
I
with you 100%.
I
Be
tell my
and
kids,
enjoy it and be proud of it. And if it's a trophy for you, awesome. There ought to be half 100 people in the comments congratulate you. I don't care if you're 6 years old or 66 years old. Everybody gets into it different. You and I are probably raised in it. It's second nature.
yeah,
And after I get my target buck killed last year, I took two or three of my buddies out trying to get them their first archery deer. And watching them interact in the woods, it occurred to me that there are so many things that are second nature to you and I that they were completely oblivious to because they hadn't been raised in it. And those are the kind, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're, mid 30s, mid 40s, if you're a first timer, teach them everything you can. Show them the right way, show them the wrong way. They'll take that and pass it on, and we'll have hunters in 100 years. I don't want it to be a
yeah,
select minority of people that are not sharing the knowledge, not passing it along.
yeah. Or you have an area that has way more than animals than what the area can support, and then they hire professional, shooters to come in and thin the herd out. Well, why don't you just allow hunting, and they're gonna pay you to solve your problem instead of paying someone else to go solve your problem. Yeah, we'd be
Yeah,
glad to come in and if there's an area that has too many of no matter what the animal is, come in. We'll get our tags and go thin them out.
I told a couple buddies of mine I'll give them $25 every doe they shoot off my 40 acres, and I I had one buck I was after last year. I shot a different buck on October 1st on opening day, mistakenly thinking he was the one I was after. Shot the one I was after 2 days later on October 3rd, and I was like, well, time to get my does in. Those is, first and third best buck that I'd had on cameras. It was a great season. And I just got lazy and didn't go shoot but one more doe the rest of the year. And I have seen a ton of them on camera. And I spent a lot of time trying to get some of my buddies, get my buddies on their first or second archery deer, that kind of thing. But I didn't shoot nearly enough of them. And this year they're like, "Hey, you care if I come shoot some does?" I was like, bring 3 ice chests. We'll fill them all up. You can take everything home. Like, come on, let's whack and stack them." I say, "I'll give you $25 for every slick head you put in the cooler, but if you shoot a button buck, you owe me $250. How about that?" So glass them real hard. Make sure there's not those little tiny nubbins sticking out. You roll one over and you're like, "Man, he's gonna be a 160 in 4 years, maybe five." But you get my drift. Just
Yeah.
let's not get too trigger happy. But every one of them needs shot. Every one of them.
Well, and it took quite a while before I figured out, when I first started hunting, it's like I have no idea if it's an adult or fawn. I had no clue, no way to even know, and didn't know how to figure it out either. It was a deer. I had no reference or anything until I was watching one of the hunting shows. I don't remember which one it was. This has been a few decades ago, and they went through and they told how to tell if it's an adult or fawn. And basically, you take the nose to the back of the head, and if the eyes are halfway between there, it's a fawn because the eyes of the nose is longer on an adult than it is from the eyes of the back of the head. Like, okay, now I have a reference. I could look and I can judge that quick and see, if it's halfway, then it's a fawn. I'd let it walk. If it's longer, then it's fair game.
Fair enough. I like those old nanny does, those old slick heads that are 6, 7 years old. They're smart. That is a worthy adversary. And
Yeah.
there's about 2 to 3 weeks in the season where I'll be in the ground blind. I've got my bow, but it's muzzleloader or rifle season. And if she hangs up at 70 yards and starts to blow and stomp, guess what? I got one for you, sister. It's you think you're safe at 82 yards through the timber? Well, I got a 50 caliber muzzleloader that says that was a bad move on your part. So yeah, and I've heard people go back and forth that you ought to let the good does that have been they've been putting out twins for years and years. You ought to let them walk. Shoot the young doe. They don't know if they're gonna be a good mom or not. Your does that are throwing twins out that are 4, 5, and 6 years old, let them go. I was like, oh, never thought of it. I was trying to shoot the oldest, longest headed, I mean, big old long head on her. You can tell which ones they are when they come in because they'll get up and run people off the corn pile. I don't. Is corn? Can you all hunt over corn in Nebraska? Is that legal or no?
No, you,
Oh
you can't
man.
you can't bait them.
Well, there's corn
But
everywhere, so I don't see what it would do.
well, yeah. You can't put bait out for them, but you know what? If the farmer spills corn, that's part of the process, and
Yep.
it just happens to be by your stand, then you know you didn't put it there. The farmer just as he turned the tractor, some spilled, and
Yep.
you're going to get that in the field all over the place. And y- you know I don't put any feed out for them. I just leave them. I might to after season throw a salt block out or something, for them to have some minerals during the winter time. Um, but you know by the time hunting season comes around in next year, it's basically gone.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen them. I've seen them take that spot where the mineral lick was all the way down to the dirt, and they got their head down in a hole. It's like there can't be anything there they're coming back for. Oh yeah, it's soaked into the ground there. They're just
Yeah,
soaking it up.
they'll dig a hole wherever you pulp the salt or the mineral blocks. They'll dig a hole there. So make sure you're not putting it where the farmer's going to drive his tractor through.
Yeah,
He
that's
would not
another
like to
thing.
have a hole that he comes across.
Yeah. My mine has all been underwater the past couple of weeks to month. We've had so much rain, it's just an old creek bottom. I'm hoping that my Moultrie cameras are not only water resistant but waterproof. So did the uh did the unthinkable and left them all hanging right where they were because I got nice and lazy after season. So I'm gonna go see if they're rusted shut when I go change the batteries and see if there's anything living inside of them. Um, but yeah, we've had a ton of rain down here over the past couple of weeks. It's looking green. I'm hoping that it's given them enough foliage that all the bucks are going to grow good set of horns this year. Um, I heard like last year, I think we had pretty good rain. Had some good bucks running around. I don't know what the correlation is. I know it's only how much food they can eat and how big they're going to grow. But if we've had torrential downpours and everything's greening up early, those deer are going to be eating good.
Right, right. Yeah, they're definitely going to be eating good when you have all that stuff turning green. And I know the one property we hunted, it's flooded several times, and the last flood, towards the end of last year, it was probably 6 or 7 feet above flood stage, and it completely flooded the field, and it flooded it so much on the only road into the village I live in, you could not go across it. And then even the highway, which is the flood before, it didn't go over the highway. This time it even went over the highway. And yeah, it took out a bunch of land. The farmer across where I don't hunt, he lost probably 20 feet of his cropland. It
Oh
just
wow.
washed the bank away. And my son had put up a platform, and 2 floods ago, it took the bank out up to where he had the one leg. And this last flood, it took it out almost halfway up to the next one. It's like a 8x8 platform, and it washed away another 4 or 5 feet of the bank. So the one leg is just kind of hanging down there with concrete on it because he concreted into the ground, and now the bank is all gone.
Oh no. Mother Nature remains undefeated.
Yeah, and a lot of trees caved into it, and I did a video on the flood that's on my YouTube channel. You can always go out and see the little flood things in there and the aftermath of it, and sand all over the whole field, and it still found some footprints in there, some turkey and deer and some other stuff, and but
I
yeah,
was
it
gonna
was
say,
washed away.
besides the deer, what else do you like to hunt?
Mostly what I hunt is deer. Um, I'm My knees won't let me walk around fields for pheasant anymore. Um, so I haven't pheasant hunted, and well, last time I pheasant hunted, I had a dog. So
What kind
without
of
a
bird
dog,
dog?
pheasant hunting is tough. Had a lab mix is what we had, and
There you go.
he was really good hunting dog. And uh, yeah, I haven't done that in quite a while. I know as a kid, we used to go pheasant hunting all the time and walking fields and walking through snow deep enough that you're past your knees. Every time you take a step, you sink in clear up to your knees, and pull him out, take another step, sink up to your knees, and
Oh, it's heavy up there. Yeah,
yeah,
we've never got I've never got into good pheasant hunting, but my dad's always talked about South Dakota and going up to those places that makes it worth the drive. Um,
yeah,
we had a we had Brittany's growing up with our bird hunting dogs, and they're not much for bringing a dove back. They don't duck hunt, but you get them out there pheasant and quail country, and it is it's night and day difference seeing those dogs work. I mean, it's so cool. I was like, watching him point one. I was like, "How'd you teach him to do that?" And he goes, "I didn't teach him to do that. That's what they do." I was like, "Oh, that's pre-programmed in, huh?" He goes, "That's why you pay the money for them."
yeah.
My neighbor over here, they had somebody coming over to watch a sports game, and one of the guests had a Brittany running around the backyard, and I hadn't seen one since mine passed away long time ago, and I was that close to getting to pet that dog, and it decided it was not having it, and I was like, "Oh, you don't understand. I haven't seen a Brittany since like, oh man, it would have been like 2012, 2013. So I haven't seen one in over 10 years. They're just, you don't see them out there very often, but I was within a foot of petting this dog, and it showed me every one of its teeth, and it's like, get that mustache away from me, man. I don't know you. I was like, come here, I want to be your buddy. I want to rub your belly. It's like, nope, nope. It was thinking about it, but it might have not have wanted to get in the back of the truck and start driving to Nebraska to hunt pheasants immediately. Bring
Yeah.
bring me my vest and my good boots. I'm going. I was I could see myself there. Man, that was good. That's a blast from the past. You see those old dogs, and I've hunted with setters, and I've had some goofy labs out there before, man. I told one of our hunting buddies, I was like, man, you better leave that dog in the field if you want to take him home with you. You better sit him out this one, because I'm sitting here trying to walk, and I'm a little guy, legs are probably half as long as everybody else's. And my dad wanted me on the far end so I didn't catch a stray pellet. So as the wing guy, you got to stay up front. You don't want to let the birds, don't go in as a V. You want to go in kind of in a
Yeah.
semicircle. So I got half the legs and twice as many steps as everybody else. And this dog's got a hold of these birds in the back. We had the little thing where it's like a ring where you put their neck in, and I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
hanging them off the back of me. And this dog is grabbing onto these birds, pulling me backwards. And my dad's like, "Keep up, man. We don't want to get flanked by the birds." And I'm like, "This lab weighs as much as me, and he's pulling me in the opposite direction because he's finally found a bird. Only problem is I shot him 20 minutes ago. So that was the last time. That was the last time I went pheasant hunting with a lab. Man, that was fun. We gotta go do that.
I know we trained him to our dog to for pheasant hunting. And one time, one of the neighbor kids was over, and he just kept jumping up on her. Just it wouldn't leave the kid alone until he turned around. I seen they had a pheasant tail feather in her back pocket. It's like
Uh,
he's trained to go find them, and you
yeah.
have one. Yeah, of course he's going to go nuts trying to get that.
Yep. Yep. You can't out train instinct. It's just something they're just built with it.
Well, he just kind of naturally, labs don't normally point, but he pointed. And um, the first time we wanted to see, if he's, because he was supposed to be like a cockapoo or something. No, he's labbing something else because look, the feet were webbed and head and nose just looked like he was like 40-pound lab is what he ended up being because
Okay.
he's labbed something else mix. And we're out there like 4th of July and we're watching the fireworks go off and he's laying down there just sleeping away. The fireworks go off. He could care less. And I said, well, let me see, how it is because we went to there was a shotgun range up here. There's doing trap or skeet. I forget which one it was doing, probably trap. And I run into somebody I knew, and they were up there practicing. So first, I'm sitting in the back, and the guy yells, "Pull!" He looks up, lays his head down, bang, gun goes off. All right, laid his head back down. Pull. He looks up the guy yelling, "Pull!" Laid back down, but gun goes off. He didn't care about the gun going off. And so then I walked up behind his friends of mine, and I'm standing right behind him while they're shooting. He's like, he's just looking around. He can care less about the noise. It's like, okay, he's not afraid of guns. And then he said, okay, let's check his nose. So at the time, my ex-wife, she would take like bones and stuff like she threw it in the freezer until garbage day so they wouldn't stink. So we took a frozen bone and showed it to him. She took him in the house. I drug it on the ground all around a whole bunch of different places in the yard. And come out and he sticks his nose down, follows it, comes back, start several times it started back, followed over, got the bonus. Like, okay, he's got a nose, don't care about guns going off. They can train him. So then
That
I
dog will
started,
hunt.
yeah, that dog will hunt. So then I started to go to the training dummy, and I'd throw it, and then I had a rope tied it, and I'd pull it away. So I think that's why he started pointing. And we seen him one day out there. There was a bird um, over by a sandbox or something we had out there, and you see he just kind of sneaking up to it. Go step sneaking up a little bit, sneaking up a little bit more, and then he'd do that to squirrels too. He'd chase them. He'd keep a squirrel treed in the tree in our backyard. We had one tree. They couldn't jump to anything else. He'd keep that squirrel treed in there for hours because he'd just lay down at the tree and the squirrel start coming down here and he'd go back up after it, chase it back up. He'd do that for hours. He'd just sleep underneath the tree.
Pretty good entertainment.
Yeah. And then there's a few times that the squirrel finally got down and run and it'd run through the fence and he would just about catch that tail. The squirrel just fast enough that he'd get away from him. But that was a lot of fun.
Just see one running around with half a nub one of these times. They're like, well, every dog has his day.
Yeah.
The
And
expression had to come from somewhere.
yeah. Well, and then wintertime too, you wouldn't think he would, you know, be out there like that. We had a doghouse. We put a blanket inside. Wintertime, he'd grab the blanket, pull it out. It'd be frozen. He'd lay on a frozen blanket outside the doghouse.
Hmm.
It wasn't until it started to get a little bit older and he'd get in a doghouse when it rained. And it was an insulated doghouse. And it was, kind of small for him. And, he'd go in there and we try and put stuff in. Nope. He didn't want nothing in there. Just lay on the bare plywood.
Ours did that too. Now that you mention it, I remember them dragging that bedding out of there. It must have been too hot with two of them in there, but they keep each other warm. So
Yeah.
I've seen stranger things.
Yeah.
Somebody
He was just all by himself. And I didn't want a flat roof because I didn't want him sitting up. So I made a peaked roof when I made it. So he
was.
couldn't lay up on top of the roof. He had,
I think we had ours in like a cut up 55-gallon drum with the front put a front on it, but my dad made a platform so they could jump up there and sit on it. They just up there on his, king in the castle, happy on a
yeah.
perch. So, man, he was a good dog. I miss that. I'm ready to get another bird hunting dog, run him around the neighborhood, and then when it's time to go hunt, they just kind of click into gear. It's like they don't have to. I mean, we weren't huge into bird hunting, so he probably only went 15, 20 times over the course of his life. But from the get-go till the very end, he knew what was going on. They are a smart breed of dog. And it's like you don't realize that without really training them, they come pretty much out of the box, ready to go. And it is unfortunate you get some that are gun shy, and those are the ones that end up at the shelters and stuff like that, where hunters are
Yeah,
like, "Well, I can't break them with that, and don't need them." And then they go, family will adopt them or something like that, and they're like, "What a strange looking dog. It's very
yeah,
peculiar." Like, oh yeah, you don't understand. It was bred for one purpose and one purpose only. They just didn't get enough episodes of Bonanza in when they were puppies before they opened their eyes. All the gun dogs are like, yeah, they're in there watching Gunsmoke, and then they'll watch Bonanza, and they're 6 days old right now. They'll open their eyes in another 2 weeks, and it's like, yep, that's the makings of a good dog. The Rifleman, another one, old
yeah,
westerns, anything like that. There's just gunshots going off with the TV volume cranked up. I'm like, the dog's gonna be deaf by the time I get him. He goes, no, he'll love the sound of all kinds of rounds being shot. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
yeah. It's kind of interesting how some don't care and others basically spaz out when they hear at least a little bit of noise, and it's kind of nice when you get a dog that's not really afraid of that kind of stuff. And he, if we open the gate during the daylight, he would not leave the backyard. He'd
Hmm.
leave the gate open. He wouldn't leave the backyard. Now, if I open the gate in the dark, you could not keep him in the backyard. He'd come around. If your car was open, he'd be inside. He'd be inside the car. He's ready to go hunt. And he'd come in when we first had him. We had a pretty small house, and he was trained to stay on the linoleum in the kitchen. And we'd let him in the house, and he'd stay in the kitchen. He wouldn't go onto the carpet unless I opened the gate when it was dark out. I'd go in the house. He'd run the whole house. Other than that, because it's time to go hunt.
Yep.
He's already in hunting mode.
Ours is I say it's been probably 10 over 10 years since he passed away, and we'll still go out in the backyard of the house I grew up in, and you can still see where that path he just went around the perimeter, just checking on everything, making sure everything's good, and you can still almost see the ground beat down, and it's been over a decade. Still see they dig holes on the side of the house to lay in the cool dirt to get out of the heat, stuff like that. And everybody else is like, "Oh man, I got to bring my dog in. It's cold." And it's like, mine's laying in the snow right now with his feet in the air. Like he's having a great time. Like they're ready for anything. A lot of those bigger dogs that get stickers all in their paws, and they'd be sitting there chewing on them and wouldn't want to go hunt that field. And mine would go. We just pick them off of him when we got home. He didn't mind him at all. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'll chew that out later. I got another few fields in me." So yeah, I'm ready to go hunt some birds, man. What was your shotgun of choice for upland bird?
Well, when I was growing up, it was a 20 gauge bolt action.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It was a JC Higgins that tells you how old the gun was. And I have the box still that my grandfather mailed at U.S. mail to my dad in Idaho.
Okay.
U.S. mail.
Don't
Of course,
date
that
yourself now.
that was in the 50s.
Oh man, that'd be
And
fantastic.
you get some of those old magazines, like from the 50s and 60s, and there's ads in there. Here, you can buy this gun, have it mailed right to your house.
Did you guys ever get crazy up there and take a recurve with a flu arrow out there after pheasants, or just slinging lead?
No, just slinging lead. I never tried doing that.
It's a lot of steps for a big maybe, but man, if you hit one of them when they get up, because I mean they're right under your feet. You've been just nothing in that bush. Just keep on walking, and all of a sudden between your knees and your navel is an explosion of feather, and you know that sound they make when you bust one up, and it's like man, I could almost swat it out of the air with a recurve as fast as I could shoot it, but here we go. Let's try it. Blunt tips and six big vanes about that tall on it
Oh
on a
yeah.
cedar arrow. Oh yeah, I've still got some of them at my dad's house. He swears they used to do it. I don't know if any of them ever came close to hitting one of them or not, but and make a good picture.
Yeah. Yeah. There's people out there that can do that. They shoot at the moving targets like that all the time and with recurves, and I just
I'm
never
trying to
practice
think of the
enough to
guy's
get good enough to
name.
do that.
What's the guy's name on Target for Christ? Throws the aspirin up in the air and shoots it with his recurve. What is
Um, is that Munden?
I think so.
Or is,
Yeah.
is that the handgun guy? I'm
No, it's a recurve.
Yeah, there's two guys that do those really small things. One guy takes like a little snubby nose and shoots 100 yards at small targets, and then I was thinking it's Bob Munden is the archer that throws the aspen up and shoots them, and
Oh yeah.
or throws a ring up and shoots through the ring, and
Just showing off, man.
yeah,
Something about it.
lots of practice.
Oh yeah. Made a career out of it.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite uh quite a lot of practice to get good enough to do that. I just never spent that much time practicing with the recurve to get good enough to shoot that well with it.
We put in for one hunt a year that's in McAllister, Oklahoma. It's on an ammunitions depot, so you can't take compounds, you can't take compounds, you can't take rifles. They used to not let you take binoculars because all the munitions that are dropped overseas are stored there. So anything that could make a fire, no magnifying glass, no lighter. I think you can take an ozone unit now if you're big into those. But we would always put in for that hunt, shoot our recurves, and if we didn't draw, put them back up. My dad's a big recurve guy. He'll shoot one year round, but me, I'm trying to reach out there and touch something if I had to.
Yeah,
I don't want to push it at 60, 70 yards, but if I ever set up a compound with that slider on it, which I think I'm going to run one this year, I've got a little bit different setup. Um, I was always previously I would shoot the Easton Full Metal Jackets, and those things are heavy. That's not a for distance arrow unless you're shooting the
no,
poundage. And I mean all my hunting bows are always 50 to 60. That's just what my dad would always end up getting me. I'd get a new one every 3 or 4 years. But I've got a 60 to 70 pounder this year. I'm going to hunt with a little bit smaller shaft, probably like a 204 diameter. What are those things called? Black Eagle Rampages. So it's a 204 with a half out. So not a full outsert, but a half out. And out of a 70-pound bow, I think I could get some pretty good distance. So I'll probably get a 3-pin slider and set it up just in case. I know I'll never use it because when that deer comes in, the last thing I want to be doing is dialing that sight. I don't even take a
right.
rangefinder anymore. Like I don't I'll put a couple markers out there, like 20, 30, 40 yards, green, yellow, red pin, green arrow, yellow arrow, red arrow, and I know what every tree is before it comes in. Back in the day, I had a rangefinder, and it's like, okay, the deer's at 28. Okay, he took a step. Okay, he's at 29 and a half now. And it's like, just use your 30-yard pin. You'll be all right. I guarantee it. He's going to duck anyways. Even if he gets to 32 and a half, here's that string drop. They're gonna give you that little half a duck. So
Yeah,
30-yard pin, aim high, aim low. Let's keep it simple here. But
yeah,
everybody else got to be fancy, got to keep up with the Joneses. So I'll probably order me a different sight this year for my next hunting bow. Different brand, changed brands, went from a Hoyt to a Darton. So I can't I can't bring myself to take the hunting bow apart because it killed both of these deer are killed with it. My other one's over here. Can't see him on the camera, but I'm not gonna part that bow out if I killed my best 3 deer with it. Man, that's he's
yeah,
it's gonna hang up on the wall just like it is, and it's always there for a good backup if I need it. But getting these companies that support you and want to stand behind you and see you do good out there in the field, I have to put a new hunting bow together. Got to get on it, man. We're already halfway, almost all the way through June. Oh, where's the year going, man?
yeah,
It goes faster and faster. But I mean, I preach at people all the time. It's like you need to be shooting your hunting bow. April. I'd be out there in February going, deer season's right around the corner. Dad's like, you're gonna have to order more arrows because you're gonna lose all 12 of those before we get there. And I was like, yeah, but I'll be practiced up. And in reality, I was just learning bad habits and developing crippling target panic. But hey, it's being 14. You learn things by kind of doing it the wrong way. And That's why they sell arrows by the dozen.
Yeah, that is true.
What were those? Double X 75 2013s? 20, no, it's a little thin. Maybe 2013s? Oh, no, I know they weren't
Could be.
23s and I know they weren't 21s. 2213s. That sounds right. 2214, 2213, somewhere in there. Double X 75 Easton Game Getters. Um, Big old long 3.5, 4 inch plastic vane on there. That was pretty good. Thunderhead, 100 grain broadhead. I think where I started. I think I actually missed the first deer I shot at because I had the practice ferals that I think we'd pulled them out of the box and never actually weighed them on a grain scale. And I think I was sighted in for 125s. And then when we put the sharp ones on, that Dad was like, "Don't ever shoot these. Only at the animal. Try not to take them in and out of the styrofoam too many times. Really worried about keeping them razor sharp." I think they were hundreds, and maybe I was nervous and put a weak shot, but I missed the same doe over her back twice. And this was back when I was pulling right at 40 pounds. I think the regulation's gone down to 35 now, so I'm showing how old I am. But I think I sighted in with like 125s, and when I shot the 100 grainers, they went about that far high at 25
Yep.
yards. Because I swear I put two good shots on her, and she just stood there like something's flying through the air. I'm not real concerned about it. I knock another arrow, boom, right over her back again. Um, Found both of them. Didn't have a hair or blood or nothing on them. So make sure if you're going out there for the first time, weigh your practice broadheads and make sure they weigh the same as your good hunting broadheads. Don't be like me.
Yeah.
But I think that was the last time I missed a deer. I haven't done that in quite a while. No, that's not true. Everybody's done it. Nobody owns up to it though.
I know we used to shoot some of the game getters, and it's got kind of that green in it. We shot them so much that they were silver. The front part of them, for
Mhm.
4 or 5 inches, were silver.
Oh yeah, take the paint right off of them.
Yeah. Now I always shot the double X 78s in 2512,
Okay.
and yeah, all the charts said that's way over spine for when I'm shooting. But you know what? The bows I set up to shoot that, they shot perfectly out of there, and they were big diameter, but they're fairly thin walled, and they still stood up, shot really good. And of course now I use the PSE carbon arrows, which they don't do anymore. They quit making them. They had their own company that they made them to their specs. And I when I closed my store in 2004, I shoot the 300 spine and comp pros, so they're 1,000 straightness. And so I said, okay, I just kept all of them that I shoot. I kept all the shafts, and so I'll have plenty of arrows for a long time. I won't have to buy any for, well, probably the rest of my life, because I won't be go through that many of them. I probably got 4 or 5 dozen of them.
Yeah, you can get away with those carbons. I'll save them, switch the broadhead out, and run them through another deer. I mean, just give them a
Oh
good
yeah.
flex. The aluminums, you might get two or three if you're lucky, depending on where you hit them. But yeah, we'll see. I'm interested to see if a smaller diameter shaft will get better penetration because I've had pretty good luck blowing through. I don't shoot them in the shoulder. I wait for them to be broadside or quartering away. So had good luck with it. Um, but that's we all evolve as hunters. There's trends we want to follow. Everybody wants to be, Levi Morgan or whoever your favorite hunting celebrity is. John Dudley's another one. Everybody wants to be like John Dudley. So, it's not necessarily about playing follow the leader, but there's guys that are really good at it. And if you learn, look at what they're doing, you can pick something up. But don't think you have to chase your tail just to be like everybody else. If there's, Grandpa killed more deer than anybody wearing a red flannel jacket and smoking a half pack of cigarettes in the woods. So, everybody
Yeah.
now with their scent control and carbon spray and ozonics and everything, yeah, it's good. Think about play the wind. Yeah, think about scent control. When in doubt, I mean, go back to how everybody used to do it.
Yeah, I got a buddy of mine when he used to smoke when he was hunting. He says, yeah, this big old buck come walking in, and he'd just put his cigarette out and across the tree that was in front of him, and and he comes walking in.
Mhm.
It's so it all depends on what they're used to.
Yeah. Foreign smell is better than human smell. So a lot of people are using the nose jammer stuff now, and as long as it doesn't smell like, you know, Old Spice deodorant, you're probably okay. It's like, well, they just smells like something different, distracts them. It's like when you're trying to listen to one person and there's like something in your ear over here. It's the same way with their nose. So that's kind of the some of the science behind it.
Yeah, and I quit using, the cover scents and all that kind of stuff. I pretty much just go, scent free as I can, and then go in. And it's one tree I was in. There was an evergreen tree in front of me, and every time I get in there, I'd grab and I'd pick off a few of the little needles and rub them in my fingers, and that was kind of it. I just kind of put a little more pine scent into the air, and
I like it. I think it'd be good.
yeah, well, it's a natural scent. It's what's naturally there. And when you start introducing other scents that aren't normally there, um, it can mess them up too. Then too, I've had some they walk in and they're actually the deer are actually following your footprints because I've seen them come right to the base of the tree and look up. They just followed you right to the tree. They're following your scent, and then they cut to the tree, and all of a sudden the scent goes up, and they're looking up at you.
They are very curious creatures, I'll say that.
Yeah,
Very much
yeah,
so.
they are.
Looking forward to getting after them again, though. It's a, you never know. It's a, sometimes it's a hobby, sometimes it's an obsession, but it means different things to different people. So no matter what your level of involvement is, get out there in the woods, enjoy nature. That's the biggest thing I can tell people.
Yeah, that's just go have fun with it.
Tell you what.
Yeah.
Well, Roy, it's been a real pleasure sitting down and swapping stories with you, man. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, it's been nice having you on. It's always like, hearing all the different stories and everything going on, and I'll put some links into what we talked about in the description, make it easier for those, to find um, all the different things we talked about. We talked about a whole bunch of different things in here. So
Yeah, it's a mile a minute once you get me talking. So
yeah.
hope we didn't stray too far off the beaten path. But Oklahoma ASA Federation on Facebook's where we do all our tournaments. My personal page is Triple C Archery. If y'all ever want to, get involved in tournament archery, that was what we started Triple C Archery for, was to, show you how to support the shops, show you how to get involved, buy some gear from last year when it comes time to spend some money, try to support your local shops. But you don't have to go buy the newest, greatest thing every time. It's $5,000 worth of doohickeys. And if you can't shoot your bow and don't know what your draw length is and don't understand why your peep sight's too high or too low, well, that's where Triple C Archery comes in. We want to give you friendly advice for free, and then we'll sell you something later on down the line. It's everybody wants the new thing like that. But podcast is the Oklahoma Archery Podcast. That's me and my co-host Dave Bosca. He shoots indoor archery and indoor archery. So me, I do a little bit of everything. Dave's kind of he knows what he likes and he likes what he knows. So if you want to keep up with us there, we'll put all those links in there. And man, I appreciate you sitting down with me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And just to remind everybody where you can catch this podcast. Of course, you want to catch Neil's too. It'd be interesting. I'll have to start listening to it and catch your podcast as well. And but go out to Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. That's probably the best place you can go. Get a lot of information because we have bow techs out there. We have archery instructors out there. We have all kinds of people that have run into all kinds of problems. If you're having a problem with your bow setup, let us know. May have to take some pictures, or if you're having shooting form problems, want to give you a critique, um, get your phone out and have somebody record you, and then go ahead and upload that video right off your phone, and we'll take a look at it and give you some pointers. Then you can always watch this, and I have other archery tips and stuff out on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself. There's a whole podcast or a whole playlist just for archery stuff. I got one for forms and I got one for, working on your bow, and made strings and all kinds of different stuff out there. So a lot of information you get from there, and just catch us on the next one, and we'll definitely have more of these. I got more of them lined up. Gonna be busy this week doing podcasts, which is fun for me anyway, and I know it's fun for everybody else. So if you have any questions, just get a hold of us, and we'd be glad to help you out any way we can.